Hey guys, how's it going? My name is Volant Victini and welcome to a brand new video on my channel. The last time I uploaded on this channel was actually 8 years ago, so that's pretty interesting. Anyway, growing up, Pokemon movies were a big part of my life, so I figured I'd make a tier list ranking all of them. Now keep in mind, I haven't seen every single Pokemon movie, and for that reason, some of these are going to be in a haven't seen tier, and also some of these movies I saw as a kid, so I don't remember them super well, but rather the impact they had on me. Keep in mind, this is a tier list, and this is a movie, so it's obviously going to be based very heavily on just my opinion. Please don't roast me in the comments if I didn't like your favorite movie. Sorry. Okay, so two things. First of all, this list is probably going to offend some people just because some of these movies I watched when I was a kid and I didn't go and rewatch them, so my opinion might be a little bit skewed through the eyes of a child. However, I at least think that my S tier is going to be absolutely on point, and I also don't think that all of the recent movies are actually on this list, so I might skip a few. Anyway, here is my tier list. Alright, so the first movie here is Mewtwo vs. Mew, which I think is actually just the first movie. So I mean, obviously this one has to go into S tier. I mean, I'd be very silly not to put this one in S tier. Besides the movie itself, just the iconic nature of the promotion around this movie and just kind of the times that we were in when this movie came out, it was just a really big deal. To this day, there's still tons of millennials and older Gen Zers that think that their ancient Mew is worth a ton of money because of this movie. And I mean, besides that, it was a pretty good movie. I mean, we had that like Pikachu crying scene. For some reason, I remember really vividly the scene with like the Gyarados in the water. I just thought was really cool at the time. So I just think like for what this did for the culture of Pokemon, it just has to go into S tier. The second movie is Pokemon 2000, which is the Lugia movie. This one I also did watch, and it was a really long time ago, admittedly, but I would put this one in S tier as well. This movie was kind of my generation's first movie. I remember a lot of kids talking about this back in elementary school and stuff like that. My childhood best friend loved Lugia so much, so just for that reason alone, this movie has a little bit more of a sentimental value to me. And one of the things about this movie that just really stuck with me was Lugia's song, of course. Really cool movie, one that has a lot of sentimental value to me as well, but the opinion I have of this movie in my head is really positive, so I'm going to give it S tier. Alright, now we had Pokemon the Movie 3, which was like the legendary dog trio, Entei, Suicune, and Raikou. I think that pronunciation is kind of debated. So this one I do vaguely remember watching. I probably just saw it like in passing while I was doing something else at the time. So I don't think my opinion of this movie is very solid, but it didn't leave a very lasting impact on me, so I'm going to go ahead and put it in B tier. I don't think it's really a bad movie, but I just don't remember a lot about it. Alright, now we have Pokemon, the Celebi movie. This one's called Pokemon Forever. Now this one, I think people kind of hate on it if I remember correctly. Like I see some bad reviews for it and things like that. Spoiler alert, by the way, if you haven't watched Pokemon Forever at this point. It did one of the coolest plot twists in the entire Pokemon animated universe, which was having the main character Sammy actually be Samuel Oak, or Professor Oak. So that was like super cool, and it was one of the like coolest plot twists that a movie has ever done. So I really respect it for that reason, and I'm gonna go ahead and put it in A. Again, didn't really leave a lasting impact on me, but I just gotta give them respect for how cool of a plot twist that was. Alright, now we have this movie here, which is like the Latios and Latias movie. I didn't watch this one. I don't have any recollection of watching this one. Saw Latios and Latias in like some sort of animated version, but I don't think it was this movie. So unfortunately, gonna have to put it in haven't seen. Sorry if this is your favorite movie. I really do apologize, but I don't really have time to watch all of these movies again. Alright, next we have Jirachi the Wishmaker. This one I did watch for sure. This one had like the like circus thing going on. Honestly, like again, sorry if this is your favorite movie. I didn't really like get a lot of impact out of this movie. I don't really like think back on this movie or anything like that. And I remember at the time, I wasn't really super impressed with it. I'm gonna go ahead and put it in B tier. I don't think it quite deserves C tier. Like I don't think it was a bad movie, but it just didn't really leave a very like lasting impact on me or anything like that. And now we have Destiny Deoxys, which I think I did actually watch, but again, no real impact on me. Gonna just put it in B tier. I might not have watched this one. I don't actually remember for sure, but I do remember like a Deoxys movie, so I'm gonna go ahead and put it there. Again, sorry if it's your favorite movie. I just, again, don't have the time to go and watch like all of these movies. They're like hours long, you know? Take my opinion on this one with a grain of salt. All right, now we are talking automatic S tier, Lucario and the Mystery of Mew. I watched this movie so many times as a kid. I know this movie like front to back. This is easily one of my favorite Pokemon movies of all time. I'm gonna go ahead and actually move it to the front of S tier. But yeah, this movie was absolutely phenomenal. The beginning scene with like the two warring armies and all the Pokemon in the armor was like really cool as a kid to see. The sort of tournament scene that's kind of a trope in Pokemon movies, having Unbeatable as the background song. was super cool. That's one of the best songs in the entire Pokemon franchise as far as I'm concerned. And just like the overall vibe of the movie, like sort of the whole medieval thing going on was just really cool to me. Lucario was a really cool like main character. If you haven't seen this movie, just go watch it. I really love this movie. In my opinion, this is like the pinnacle of the Pokemon movies, but I'm sure some people might disagree with me. Alright, next up is Pokemon. This is Pokemon Ranger, Temple of the Sea, I believe it's called. This one I did for sure watch. This one had Manaphy in it, and I believe Kyogre as well. I definitely enjoyed this movie. I don't think it was like S tier or anything like that. I think it might be S tier if I played more Pokemon Ranger, but that was the thing that my friends played. I never really got around to it. And I did enjoy it, but just not enough to put it into S tier. So I'm going to go ahead and put it into A tier. This was like their second movie where they had like a mythical Pokemon as well as the legendaries, and the mythical one was always like really weak and it always needed to be protected by the humans. Kind of weird because mythical Pokemon are supposed to be super strong as well. I think it was the same way in Jirachi the Wishmaker. Alright, next up, another absolute banger, the Darkrai movie. This one I'm putting probably right behind Lucario and the Mystery of Mew. This movie absolutely sold me on the creation trio. It was so cool. I loved the battles in this movie. I loved how like all the trainers would have their Pokemon out with them.
Stop fighting right now!
I specifically remember this scene with, I think it was Licky Tongue or Licky Licky.
Licky Talk!
I am not Licky Licky! I am the Baron Albert!
No way!
I don't know why I remember like that Pokemon specifically. I think it was in the movie quite a bit. But yeah, this was definitely a super iconic movie of my childhood and one that I absolutely loved to the bottom of my heart. And this movie made Darkrai one of my favorite Pokemon of all time. Unlike in Temple of the Sea and in Jirachi the Wishmaker, the mythical Pokemon in this movie was actually pretty cool. So yeah, easy S tier. Again, a super iconic movie from my childhood. Really, really love this one. Alright, next up is Pokemon Giratina. I did watch this one. I watched this one fairly recently, like within the last few years. Didn't like it. I'm gonna be honest. I did not like it. Again, sorry if this is one that you liked, but I just didn't really like it that much. I think the Diamond and Pearl movies really peaked with like Darkrai. This one was just kind of whatever. Like I watched it and it kind of ended and I didn't really have much of an impact on me. I could argue this one to be in C tier, but I'll go ahead and put it in B. Also, let me like organize B tier real quick. I'd probably do that, which I think is probably going to offend some people. Okay, so next up is the Arceus movie. This one I watched. Again, not a super strong lasting impact. Don't remember a ton from it, but I do remember liking it more than the Giratina movie, so I'm going to go ahead and put it just like above it in B tier. But Jirachi the Wishmaker was a little bit more impactful for me, so that one's going to go above Arceus. Next up is the Zoroark movie, which I also did watch. I was kind of always really confused why they chose Zoroark as like a main character of a movie, because it's not really like a mythical Pokemon, it's just like a normal one. But I do remember enjoying this movie. I would put it probably in A tier, probably above Temple of the Sea. I'd say it's like very close to the same level as Temple of the Sea for me. I do actually remember enjoying this movie. Like there were a few scenes in it that were pretty cool to me. I feel like people are going to disagree with me on that, but I don't know, just a little bit more impactful than the ones in B tier for sure. Our next up is Pokemon the movie Black and White, which honestly I'd be giving disservice to Victini by not putting this in S tier. And these ones I actually literally just watched like before making this tier list. It's kind of the reason why I'm making this tier list in the first place. These ones go hand in hand. They are literally the same movie. They just have like some very slight differences in the characters and things like that. But yeah, I watched White all the way through, and then I like kind of skipped through Black to make sure I wasn't missing any major plot points. I really love how they represented Victini in this movie. Like I think this is a really quintessential representation of him. He used like cool iconic moves. I thought he was really cute the whole movie, the way he was like with the macarons. I enjoyed these movies a lot personally. They were kind of very similar to the vibe I got from like the Darkrai movie and the Mystery of Mew. However, I can say without a doubt that they do not deserve S tier. The movies in S tier are definitely a cut above these ones. They did a good job of reminding me of my childhood childhood watching these on like Cartoon Network. And of course I love Victini, so I do have to give it some points for that. Sorry, a little bit of bias there. But yeah, we're gonna go A tier, and I'm gonna go ahead and put these ones like towards the top of A tier. I almost ordered them like this because I watched white and I skipped through black, but then I realized it'll probably like tick some people off that have OCD. Anyway, yeah, not S tier movies by any means, but I did like the whole Easter egg of releasing the two different movies and having like slight differences in them. They were cool. The plot was like a little silly. One thing I wanted to point out is that in these movies they showed Team Rocket quite a bit, but they never actually ended up doing anything or like disrupting the plot in any way. But I get it. I mean, they kind of had to do two movies in a way, so they were probably on a time crunch. Our next up is the Kira movie with Keldeo. I feel like 50-50 on that I watched this or didn't. I'm gonna go ahead and put it in haven't seen. Our next up is the Genesect movie. This one I did watch mainly because like X and Y was my favorite era. I don't remember hating this one, but again, didn't really leave much impact on me. I'm gonna go ahead and put it in B tier. Genesect is a cool Pokemon. I do like him, but yeah, just not much impact on me. I do definitely remember watching it though. Our next up is like the quintessential XY movie. I think this is. It's like the one with Diancie, it looks like, and Yveltal. I'll be honest, don't remember watching this one. But now that I know it exists, I'm gonna go watch it, even though it's literally 6 a.m. in the morning and I haven't slept yet. Don't do that, by the way. Get your sleep. Our next up is Hoopa in the Clash of Ages. I mean, this movie... Okay, listen. I'm gonna throw this one into S tier. Now, having watched this movie, I'm sure this rating is definitely going to offend some people. Hear me out, okay? Hear me out on this before you go and leave an angry comment. This movie had all the legendaries in it, dude. That's so cool. Who even cares what the plot of this movie was? Who even cares? Getting to see all these legendary Pokemon just battle it out is like so cool, and it's the only time in like any of these movies that we ever got to see that happen.
Pikachu, use Thunderbolt! They Mega Evolve! That's a surprise!
I don't even really remember what the plot of this was. I think it was like some like ancient times thing going on in the beginning, kind of like the Pyramid of Light movie from Yu-Gi-Oh, where they like unsealed Hoopa, and then Hoopa like used its rings to summon all the legendaries out. This movie kind of felt like a Godzilla movie, but instead of having a bunch of different monsters, it had a bunch of different legendary Pokemon. Yeah, I mean, just off of that basis, I mean, as far as Pokemon movies go, you're going to watch them, which is to see like cool Pokemon and cool Pokemon fights. It's kind of tough to find a Pokemon movie that has like a super deep plot, so I can forgive any plot points for just how cool this movie was, and I'm sure at least a handful of you will agree with me on that. Don't worry, I'll put it at the bottom of S tier because I don't remember this being a particularly good movie plot-wise. Now we have the Volcanion movie. Didn't watch this one, and I don't really think anyone watched this one, to be honest. I haven't heard anything about this movie. I didn't even know it existed until right now. Maybe it's like a hidden gem. It looks like Magirna's in it as well. But yeah, I did not watch this movie. Let me know if you actually watched it down below and if it's good. Have Pokemon I Choose You. Is this like... Hold on, let me look this up real quick just to make sure. Okay, so as far as I can tell, this movie was like a recap sort of all of Ash's most iconic moments. Came out in 2017, which is a little bit weird. I do vaguely remember watching this though, because I think I remember watching a movie that kind of like recapped all of Ash's big moments really quickly. But that might have just been a recap in the actual series. I'm gonna go ahead and put it in C tier just off the basis that it doesn't really add a whole lot to the whole general movie lineup. I think this movie was kind of supposed to be like a fast-forwarded version of the first series, but in better animation style. I don't know. I don't really think it fits with the rest of these. Again, let me know down below if it's actually like super good and really cool. But as far as I can tell, it's like a really safe sort of filler movie. Okay, next up we have Pokemon The Power of Us. This is the one with Zeraora. I watched this movie, and this movie I remember being like really weird. It didn't really feel like a Pokemon movie that much. I think it's because it had a lot of focus on Lisa instead of Ash, which, you know, I'd be a fool to complain about that. I'm gonna go ahead and put this one in C tier though. I personally didn't really like it that much. It just, again, didn't really feel like a Pokemon movie. I feel like there's this kind of vibe they've sort of built up with all these other releases. Like they were kind of trying to like modernize the whole thing. Don't try to fix what isn't broken. Now I also watched the Zarude movie, but that one isn't actually on here. That one was kind of weird. It was like pretty bad, but there was some really deep and emotional stuff in it as well. probably put the Zarude movie up in like A tier for me, but honestly, a pretty good movie in terms of emotions at least. But yeah, that's my list, and just to appease some of you, I'll go ahead and put this one in haven't seen, and also put Destiny of Deoxys in haven't seen. Because although I do remember watching these, I just didn't like remember them enough to actually give them a fair rating. So hopefully this appeases everybody. Again, this is just my opinion. It's how I interpreted these movies. Sure, I'll offend some people here and there. People feel very passionately about their favorite Pokemon movie. But yeah, just my opinion. And let's head to the outro. Alright guys, that's my tier list. Thanks a lot for watching this video. This is like the first actual video I've uploaded on this channel in 8 years, like I said, and you made it to the very end of it, so you might as well subscribe to see what I'm up to next. Or if you agree that the Lucario and Darkrai movie are the best movies of the entire series. Anyway, thanks again for watching. Subscribe, like, and comment, and I'll see you next time.